Family dinners are supposed to be warm, filled with laughter, the aroma of traditional food, and memories that heal. But for me, they were battlegrounds, places where my self-worth was served cold alongside fried plantains. I never expected that one day, the table would turn, and I'd be the one holding the knife and fork of truth. My name is Amara. Born in the heart of Abuja, raised in a house where appearances were more important than affection. My mother, Ifeoma, always wanted a perfect daughter, one who fit her standards of beauty, success, and pride. But I was none of those things to her. I was the burden. Until the day I brought a secret to dinner. A man. A revelation. A mirror. I still remember how the dinner was set that evening. Mama had outdone herself, golden jollof rice, peppered goat meat, mwamwa wrapped tightly in banana leaves, and chin-chin in a crystal bowl. It was her way of showing off, especially when we had visitors. But today, there were no visitors, just me, the invisible daughter returning home after years of silence. The text I received 2 days before had been short and cold. We're hosting a family dinner this Friday. Your siblings will be there. Try not to embarrass us for once. I should have ignored it. But something inside me said go. Perhaps a final attempt to be seen. I arrived 10 minutes early. Mama's brows rose the moment she saw me. You still don't know how to wear a proper wig? And this your dress, kiloed, Amara? You look like you borrowed it from a market woman. I smiled. It's handmade by a designer in London. She waved dismissively, lips curling. Of course. The burden is now talking like she owns England. The word hit hard. Burden. Again. It wasn't new. Since I was 15, that name had followed me like a shadow. The burden who couldn't pass her WAC the first time. The burden who studied fine arts instead of medicine. The burden who was too dark, too fat, too loud, too. Amara. She favored my siblings. Ngozi, the pharmacist in Canada. Chuka, the engineer with a white wife. And Kelechi, the pastor with 3 kids and an Instagram page full of motivational quotes. Me? I was the forgotten one, the one whose updates they shared with pity. Dinner began. Conversations flowed around politics, business, and vacation homes. Mama directed the attention like a host on live TV. So, Chuka just closed a real estate deal in Cape Town, she beamed, eyes flicking to me. But Amara, well, we're just glad she's managing. Then she laughed. At least she didn't call again asking for rent money this year. The room chuckled. I swallowed the ache rising in my throat. My husband, sitting quietly beside me, gently reached for my hand under the table. They hadn't noticed him, at least not properly. Mama had assumed he was just a friend, perhaps another failed boyfriend. And what do you do, sir? Ngozi finally asked, glancing at him for the first time. He smiled politely. I run a few businesses. Mama cut in before he could finish. He means he probably sells electronics. These Lagos boys and their business talk. That was it. I placed my spoon down gently and looked around the table. The same faces that had watched me grow, judged me, mocked me, were still doing the same. So I stood up. Actually, I said, voice calm but firm, I'd like to introduce you all properly to my husband. They froze. Mama blinked rapidly. Husband? I nodded. Yes, Mama. This is Akin. My husband of 2 years. We got married privately. Her mouth parted, but no words came. I continued. He owns a chain of tech companies in Lagos, Nairobi, and Dubai. He's one of Forbes' top 10 under 40 in Africa. Silence fell like a thunderclap. Chuka coughed. Ngozi's wineglass trembled slightly. And Mama, I added slowly, he was also the one who paid off your house loan last year. The anonymous donor? That was him. Mama's face turned pale beneath her layers of powder. You never told me. Because you never asked. You never believed I could be anything more than a burden. Growing up, I was different, not because I lacked ambition, but because I dreamed differently. While Mama wanted doctors and engineers, I sketched clothes and sculpted masks. Art was my therapy. My way of breathing when home felt like suffocation. She insulted my drawings, tore up my sketchbooks, and once told me, no man wants a woman who draws pictures for a living. So I left home at 22, scraping by in Lagos while working as a fashion assistant and living in a friend's storage room. I barely had food, but I had freedom. That's when I met Akin, at an art exhibition I almost didn't attend. He bought one of my sculptures and asked if I had more. We talked. We laughed. He didn't care that I was sweating through my only good blouse. He didn't see a burden. He saw me. He supported me without belittling me. He believed in my fashion label when I could barely afford thread. Together, we built something, me, my business, and love. But I never told my family. Because I knew what they'd say. They'd claim it was luck. Or a lie. Or worse, that I didn't deserve him. I watched Mama now, eyes glossy, chest rising in silent shame. My life didn't end when you gave up on me, I said quietly. It began. Akin stood and nodded respectfully to everyone. Thank you for the dinner, he said, placing a branded envelope on the table. This contains some investment advice and startup funds for each of you. Amara wanted it. I turned to him, surprised. I figured we could break the cycle of pain with something useful. We left quietly. The room stayed silent. Outside, the Abuja night was calm. Crickets chirped. Streetlights flickered gold over empty streets. As we entered the car, I exhaled deeply, for the first time in years. Are you okay? Akin asked, voice soft. I smiled, tears running freely. I introduced myself today. Not just you. That night, I posted a single line on my social media for the first time in months. To every daughter who was called a burden, may you become the blessing they never saw coming. The silence after our exit was louder than all the years of insults I had endured. Back at the hotel, I sat by the window of our suite, still in my yellow Ankara dress. My phone buzzed. Over a dozen missed calls from Mama. One message from Kelechi. Amara, whatever you did at dinner, you shook her. She's not speaking. I didn't respond. Akin walked in with tea and gently placed it on the table beside me. Do you regret it? He asked. I shook my head. No. I didn't expect the truth to hurt her more than her words ever hurt me. The next morning, I woke to find Mama outside our hotel lobby. Her wrapper was wrinkled, her eyes tired. She had come alone. Can we talk? She asked quietly, not looking me in the eye. Akin gave me a gentle nod and walked away. She followed me into the garden behind the hotel. It was quiet, just the rustling of leaves and chirping birds. She didn't sit. Just stood there, hands clasped like a child in trouble. I didn't know, she finally whispered. I didn't know you were doing so well. You didn't want to know, I corrected. Her eyes watered. I was scared, Amara. You were always so different. You weren't like your siblings. You didn't obey. You didn't fit in. I folded my arms. So you punished me for it? She nodded slowly. I thought if I pushed you hard enough, you'd change. I didn't realize I was pushing you away. We sat on a bench beneath a mango tree. The silence stretched again. You know, she began softly, my own mother used to call me worthless too. Because I got pregnant with your elder brother before marriage. She said I'd bring shame. That no man would want me. So when I finally married your father, I made a vow to never let my children bring me shame. She looked at me now, finally, fully. But I became her. And worse. That confession landed heavy in my chest. The chain of generational pain. Passed down like inheritance. Not of gold or land, but of wounds. I can't change the past, Mama said. But if you'll let me, I'd like to try to know you. The real you. I studied her. Her voice trembled, not from pride but from sincerity. The woman I had feared all my life looked more human than she ever had. I won't forget, I said slowly. But I'm willing to forgive, if you're willing to learn. Her lips quivered. I'll try. And for the first time since I was a child, she reached for my hand and held it without judgment. That evening, back at Akin's office, he smiled as I entered with a box of new sketches. I want to start something, I told him. A foundation. For girls like me. Girls who've been called names. Girls who dream differently. He wrapped his arms around me. You're no burden, Amara. You're the beginning of a new story. 3 months passed. My name was no longer just Amara. It became a symbol, a voice for the unseen, the unheard, and the underestimated. The Amara Unburdened Foundation launched with a powerful campaign, I Am Not a Burden. Billboards across Lagos showed young girls in bold colors, scars, dreams, imperfections, and all. We offered mentorships, creative scholarships, and safe spaces for those labeled too much or not enough. Media outlets started requesting interviews. One afternoon, a popular morning show invited me. I hesitated. I don't want to be famous, I told Akin. He touched my cheek. But sometimes, your story helps others become free. I agreed. The interview aired nationwide. I spoke of my journey, of rejection wrapped in tradition, of healing, love, and reclaiming my voice. And then, just 2 days later, it happened. Mama called, crying. They're mocking me in the church WhatsApp group, she said, voice trembling. They said I failed you. That I'm the reason you suffered. Why did you have to talk about me? I paused. Mama, I never mentioned your name. But they knew. I sighed. Then maybe it's time you told your story too. Maybe it's time you healed. She went quiet. I knew then, change doesn't always come wrapped in applause. Sometimes, it brings mirrors. And people don't always like what they see. Weeks passed. Mama came to Lagos alone. She sat beside me at a panel I was hosting, titled Healing the Mother Wound. She held the mic with shaky hands. I was raised to be hard, she said, voice raw. So I thought love was hardness. I didn't know softness could raise strong daughters too. But I'm learning. Slowly. The hall stood in a standing ovation. Not just for her courage, but for the power of change, real, imperfect, but honest. Afterward, she hugged me in front of everyone. I'm proud of you, Amara, she whispered. Those 6 words undid 26 years of silence. One rainy evening, as Akin and I watched the downpour from our balcony, he asked, "Do you feel free now?" I thought long and hard before answering. No. Not completely, I said. But I'm no longer trapped either. He smiled. Then that's a beginning. Life isn't always about revenge or proving people wrong. Sometimes, it's about showing them what they refuse to see. And offering them the chance, if they dare, to see it anew. I was once called the burden. But today, I carry purpose. I carry power. I carry the voice of every girl who sat at a table that never saw her. And in case no one has told you lately, You are not a burden. You are a becoming. The labels others place on you say more about their fears than your worth. But healing begins the moment you define yourself, not out of spite, but from truth. So, who are you becoming? Let us know in the comments below, and never forget, your story may be the light someone else is praying for.